Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. We've reached the final week until April without Purdue football or basketball. With a week and a half left before kickoff, we will take a big picture view of Purdue football this year by asking the question, what does success look like for Purdue in 2025? Plus, we'll start off with some thoughts from fall camp, and we'll close with an interesting question from one of you. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. There will be plenty to talk about throughout the season, throughout games. Had some great interaction with a lot of you, asking you what success would look like for Purdue this year earlier today. Follow @BoilersBeyond. You can always send questions in to the show there, or you can email boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, coming at you every week between now all the way through the end of basketball season and beyond. Starting off with, I guess, a little bit of camp news, camp thoughts, or lack thereof. Not a particularly eventful fall camp for Purdue so far. And I think Barry Odom is thrilled that that's the case, because this time of year, when there is real news out of your practices, it's generally not particularly good. It's injuries, it's suspensions, it's problems. Been pretty quiet for Purdue thus far here on August 18th. Nothing doing in the quarterback competition in terms of public news. Now, we've heard a little bit from the coaching staff. Last week, Barry Odom met with the media on Thursday, indicated that they weren't ready to name a starter, and likely, as we know now, would not be naming a starter coming out of this past Saturday's scrimmage, because Darren Hinshaw, the quarterback's coach, met with the media today. No starter was named. It was revealed by the reporters that were at practice, Tom Dienhart, Nathan Baird, Sam King, Dub Jellison, that Ryan Brown was the quarterback getting the majority of the reps with the ones today, Monday. By the time you're listening to this, maybe a starter's been named, maybe another guy has gotten the reps with the ones. Maybe Malachi Singleton takes them on Tuesday. I don't know. I don't know where Purdue is here. Barry Odom hinted a little bit towards maybe a decision later this week as Purdue shifts from fall camp mode into Ball State prep mode. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and make a big point in overreacting or looking too much into this, because the proof will be in the pudding. 12 days from now, we will know exactly what the quarterbacks looked like. Quarterback, maybe quarterbacks plural, looked like against Ball State. 12 days from right now, we'll all be basking in the college football Saturday night slate, watching LSU Clemson, kind of digesting what we saw at Ross-Ade Stadium. It remains to be seen. Whoever Purdue goes with, there are real questions. Media has been able to see almost all of the practices this fall, minus the scrimmages. If there had been great separation between Ryan Brown and Malachi Singleton, we'd have heard about it by now. We would have heard about it. It sounds like there is a little bit of separation growing between Brown and Singleton, just based off of what you hear. My educated guess all along has been that Brown gets the job. We'll see. We'll see if someone is named here in the coming days. The real downside of this is that you're entering your last week of fall practice before you get into Ball State prep, and you've only had a little bit of work for each guy with the ones. By all accounts, Purdue was rotating Brown, Singleton, Evans, Chuba, and Bennett Meredith all through 1 through 4. So you are looking at fewer reps with the top offensive line, with the top wide receivers, for whomever wins the job. That's your downside here. There is something to be said for keeping Ball State on its toes, I guess. I don't know how different the two quarterbacks are. I think all available intel is that both guys run really well. The throwing aspect, we'll see. That's kind of where you're at. I think Malachi, I think it was Big Ten Network, did their show at Purdue, and I think DiNardo said that Malachi Singleton runs better, Ryan Brown throws better. We know Ryan Brown's a capable runner, so I don't know that there's a huge gap there. Purdue's got to have decent quarterback play, though. The path to success for Purdue, if it has poor to even average quarterback play, is pretty narrow. Purdue's got to have plus value quarterback play this year. And it was interesting. So much of what comes out of fall camp is just based off who gets the media availability after practices. Purdue really has a focus on special teams. This staff is very into the special teams, and that's interesting to me. It's sometimes a forgotten art. It's an important part of the game, though. This has not been an area of strength for Purdue in quite some time. As far as kicking goes, not been a strength for Purdue. It's had some all right kickers. Spencer Evans, J.D. Dellinger were all right. Mitchell Finneran was a good short-range kicker. Purdue hasn't had a big bomber since Carson Wiggs way back. Spencer Evans could kick it pretty good, but it hasn't been a great position for Purdue. The punting game. Keelan Crimmins was good last year. He was the lone bright spot on Purdue's team, and it was rather fitting that it was the punter. But aside from him, Purdue's really struggled at punter going back to like Joe Shopper in the early Brom years. The return game has been a non-factor. Purdue hasn't returned a punt for a touchdown since 2009. Tyrone Tracy got a kick return against Fresno State a couple years ago, but that's all that's happened in the last decade plus. A lot of mental mistakes, a lot of penalties. Something I'm curious to see, with Purdue having such a focus on special teams, how many starters, how many key contributors are lining up on kick return, on punt block, things of that nature? Are you putting a lot of starters out there, or are you trying to use that as development for younger guys? I don't know that there's a right or wrong approach to it, but I'm curious to see what that looks like for Purdue. That's about it, though, guys. It's been pretty radio silent coming out of camp. For Purdue, that's a wonderful thing. We'll be back here to close out fall camp next week, but Purdue would be thrilled if no news continued. It names a starter and we move on to Ball State game prep. But I wanted to talk today as our main topic about what success looks like for Purdue in 2025. Because success in college football, more than anything, is very relative. What is successful at Purdue looks very different than what is successful at Michigan and what's successful at Ball State, things of that nature. It's very relative. And coming into this year, expectations are not exactly high for Purdue from the outside. Purdue has a win total of 2.5 or 3.5, depending on which sports book you like to shop at. Purdue is almost unanimously the last place pick in the Big Ten, 18th out of 18. And it's not something that you can look at and say is unfair. There are so many unknowns about this Purdue team that it would be a stretch to sit here and say that you're not picking Purdue last. It's not a guarantee that Purdue finishes last, but there are a lot of unknowns. You can't have disappointing season after disappointing season stack up on you, though. That becomes problematic. Whether Ryan Walters' first year in 2023 was a disappointment or not is up to you. Purdue went 4-8. It was not a good year, but I don't think that was going to be a good year. Purdue had lost a lot the 2 years prior to that. 2024, though, might have been the most disappointing and probably the flat-out worst season in Purdue history. Give Purdue credit. It hit the reset button hard. It didn't hesitate one bit about pulling the plug on the previous regime and restarting. It didn't linger. There were no questions. Purdue got blown out at Indiana and came back the next day, and by noon or so, Ryan Walters was out. I think Barry Odom was a sensible, reasonable hire. There's no instruction manual to make the right hire. There's no specific checklist that you need to follow. All types of backgrounds, all types of experience levels have worked. All of them have failed. You can look through Purdue's history and find examples of all of that. You look back at Fred Akers, ultra experienced, won at Texas, didn't work out at Purdue. It was a disaster. Purdue's gone young, inexperienced, and it didn't work out with Ryan Walters. Purdue's gone the MAC route. Didn't work out with Darrell Hazel. But then it went the CUSA route, and it worked out with Jeff Brom. You just never know. You never totally know. There's not been any red flags to this point, but the challenge is real. It has never been tougher to climb up the Big Ten totem pole than it is now. It is not easy. It is not easy at all. The win total is low for a reason. It's telling you that Purdue's going to win the first two, and then it might win a Big Ten game, but it's probably not winning two. History tells you, though, it's highly unlikely that Purdue will go winless in the conference in consecutive seasons. The last time that happened was Rutgers in 2018 and 2019. Before that, in my brief research, I didn't go crazy in depth on this, tells me that it was Northwestern in 1980 and 1981. That was when Northwestern was in its abhorrently all-time bad stretch. It's safe to say it doesn't happen a ton. Purdue went 0-9 in league play last year, but Purdue had a chance to win 3 Big Ten games. That Illinois game was really bizarre, and had Purdue gotten a call on a fumble late in the game, Purdue probably wins that. Is Ryan Walters still coaching Purdue? I don't know. Purdue went to overtime with Northwestern and lost. Unbelievable that game was. And Purdue had a real chance against Michigan State. Purdue came back late after being in quite the hole at halftime and just came up short. Does winning 1 Big Ten game categorize as a successful season? How about 2? If you ask me blindly, sight unseen right now, 4-8 would be real progress. It's not where you want to be forever. No way. You're not going to be. You can't be a 4-8 team forever. But you have to start somewhere, and that would be quadrupling your win total from last year. It would be really nice for Purdue to build some momentum by beating programs that you aspire to be better than. Purdue should be better than Northwestern. Purdue should be better than Rutgers. These are some programs that Purdue plays this year with a chance to be better than. Purdue wants to compete with Minnesota. Purdue wants to compete with Illinois and Indiana. Now, the latter two are, really looking to have nice teams, especially when you look at their history this season. But things can change quickly in college football. Those are programs that you want to be better than, that if you want to get to where you want to be, you need to be better than. A big area for success this year, competitiveness. Last season, Purdue lost 6 games by 35 points or more. That's half the schedule. It was an every week deal. Purdue gets blown out by Notre Dame, by Wisconsin, by Oregon, by Ohio State, by Penn State, by Indiana. You had an Oregon State game and a Nebraska game where you weren't remarkably competitive. And sure, we talked about some of the close calls, but for the most part, Purdue was just getting drilled last season. Most of those, too, were over right away. And teams weren't having to put in a ton of effort against Purdue. I remember watching Oregon just very obviously not trying in that game against Purdue. That was rough. That was rough to watch if you're a Purdue fan. To lose 35-0 on a Friday night nationally televised game where Oregon was just running the most basic stuff trying to get out of there. When you look at the schedule, there are a lot more games that Purdue has very little chance to win. And that's part of the reality in the new Big Ten. But instead of losing 45-0 to Ohio State, can it be 35 or 38-17? Instead of losing 66-7 to Notre Dame, how does 35-21 sound? You lose 49-10 to Penn State. Can that turn into 28-17 against Michigan? I'm just using these scores as examples because the eye test will be plenty. But can you walk out of these games feeling good about how you played, feeling better than you expected to play? Purdue didn't show a ton of fight last year. Those games spiraled out of control more often than not because Purdue battled back. At Illinois, at Michigan State, Purdue fought back. Purdue was in the Northwestern game. But outside of that, most of them really spiraled on Purdue. And it was flat out ugly football. Can you avoid that? Can you be competitive? If you can do that, you're showing a real reason for optimism. How about a position battle for you? Where are you at the quarterback spot when the calendar turns to November? Are you confident that you have your guy moving forward? Or are you looking at the portal trying to get a head start on evaluations for when the portal opens after the season? Entering this year, Malachi Singleton and Ryan Brown each have 3 years of eligibility left. If one of these guys turns into your guy moving forward, then you have to feel pretty good entering the winter portal market. Why? Because you don't have to focus your attention and your portal funds on the quarterback position, which is uber competitive and uber expensive. You look at what some of these quarterbacks in the portal last year got paid. I mean, Darian Mensah gets $4 million to go from Tulane to Duke. Carson Beck got about that to go to Miami, it's reported. It's not a cheap marketplace to go shopping in. But if you have your quarterback for 2026 on the roster, you take care of him, keep him around, and then you hit the portal to bolster your roster and put together a postseason caliber team around your guy at quarterback. If not, you're going to need to get involved. You're going to have to go get your guy out of the portal. The COVID year is done. There is less supply for quarterbacks in the portal than there have been in recent years. It's the hardest position in sports to get right. If you get it right, you feel really good. Who wins this quarterback job? That's part of it. Is there a mid-season switch? Does the winner just take it and run with it? All of these questions are really interesting because Barry Odom's rebuild gets a lot easier if he has a good quarterback emerge in year one and he can hold on to him. I thought it was interesting. I put out a poll on Twitter a couple weeks ago asking folks how excited they are for the 2025 Purdue football season. And only 61% of folks said that they were very excited or fairly excited for the upcoming Purdue football season. It paints a pretty clear picture of where Purdue fans are entering this year. Hey, I get it. I get it. The last 2 years were a real bummer. Purdue had some perceived momentum, and it wasn't able to capitalize on it. That is a tough blow. That's a tough pill to swallow. At a time where Purdue had invested in football and redid a lot with Ross-Ade Stadium and had really got energy back, it really didn't go well. So now, trying to recapture that is really important. I asked all of you on Twitter today what you would consider a success, and I think we're at about 50 replies right now. I was looking at it before we started recording here. some mixed opinions. A lot of 3 to 4 wins, a lot of a conference win or two, being competitive, the eye test type of deal. It's up to you. I mean, this is what you consider a success. There were some folks who talked about being a bowl team, and if Purdue can do that, I think Barry Odom should be in the Big Ten Coach of the Year mix. He would need to do more than that to actually win the award, but he should be in that mix if Purdue is flirting with a bowl. That would be remarkable. But Purdue has to generate momentum. It has to generate buzz. It has to get people passionate about football again if that passion has been lost. The money is too great in the sport of college football to put yourself in a compromising position. And year one isn't particularly likely to produce these fruitful results. This isn't flipping a house in a day. This is a tear down of the studs and rebuild. There needs to be progress made, though, in time. Enthusiasm drives everything in this sport. It's a must. It's an absolute must. So if you ask me, I think success for this year is a combination of things. If you can get 4 wins, that'd be great. It really would be. No, it's not where you want to be forever. But that's real progress. If you can go into Big Ten play and you can win a few of these after starting 2-0, mind you, that is the key to all of this. You have to start 2-0. But if you can win a Big Ten game or two, awesome. If you can show competitiveness in some of these bigger games where you don't look so outclassed, I'm not expecting Purdue to go up to South Bend and have the ball with a chance to win the game late. I'm not expecting Ohio State to come to town and for it to be across the ticker on every screen in America that there's an upset alert. I wouldn't expect that. That's a stretch. But can you compete? Can you look like you belong to a degree? That would be nice. That would be successful. It's going to be an interesting year because we have no idea what to expect. It's kind of like I'm going to talk about next week. I'm not going to sit here and make these record predictions this year because I have no idea what this team looks like. We don't know who most of these players are. We know who they are, but we haven't seen them play a whole lot. It would be a lot to try to predict a record here. I understand why the expectations and prognostications are low. And if you don't, you're probably looking through black and gold glasses a little bit too much because it's fair to have a ton of questions about this. But if you can get decent quarterback play and you can feel good about where you're at, this can be a nice year. This can be a year one that you look at as a strong build. But on the flip side, you can't slip up in one of these first two. It would be devastating. It'd be really devastating. Because then, are you really going to beat USC or Notre Dame? I mean, if you're 1-3, dealing with a loss to a Group of 5 or FCS team, boy, you're entering October in a pretty tough spot. You're not in a great spot there. But if you're 2-2 and you've looked competitive against those better teams, I think you feel a lot better. It's going to be fascinating to see. I'm very curious to see what Purdue looks like here. I think Purdue did the right thing. Not that all of it was in its control, but Purdue having a complete roster turnover, I don't view as a bad thing. There are players you would have loved to keep, but this is completely restarting. And that's probably the best possible thing for this program here. All right. This episode is brought to you by me. Yes, me. When I'm not watching sports, or more accurately, talking about them, I'm talking insurance with the people of Indiana. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, I want to help you protect what you've worked hard to achieve. From home and auto to life and business insurance, I'm here to help you. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's protect you from life's everyday risks. I had a question here that I'll close out the show with from Twitter, and it's an interesting one. Will Purdue football have a higher win total, or will Purdue basketball have a higher ranking at the end of the season? Fantastic question. I'm going to go optimistic and say football here. Now, it's very hard to predict this. Purdue has to start out 2-0. I mean, if Purdue goes 2-0, loses out, basketball's got to win it all, or if you want to push, basketball finishes number 2. And I'll say, I don't have great context for the postseason AP poll. I assume this is where it would be found. Once the NCAA tournament starts, I don't really pay attention to the AP poll. But if Purdue wins it all, Purdue's number 1. Can Purdue football steal a game in Big Ten play? That's what this comes down to. If you're needing Purdue to win it all, needing Purdue to finish number 2, that's tough. But if Purdue steals a couple, gets to number 3, number 4, you've got some wiggle room. The hard part of this is that there are a lot more variables in basketball that control this than there are in football. In football, Purdue's going to do what Purdue's going to do. But a single elimination tournament gets tricky sometimes. If you lose early, how much do you drop? Again, I don't pay enough attention to the AP poll. Maybe that's a flaw. But I hate making predictions about a single elimination tournament on how Purdue will fare. This is if you believe in Final Four or bust, if you believe in national title or bust, that's this year. It's interesting that it's such a polar opposite dynamic, and I do wonder if this is a big part of what has fans a little bit down on Purdue football. Obviously, the success or lack thereof in the last 2 years, sure, but the amount of roster turnover. 83 of 120 players are newcomers on the Purdue football team, while on the basketball side of things, you have a senior trio that like no one else in the country has, that's been at Purdue their whole careers. That's guys who played high school basketball in Indiana. It's a very interesting dichotomy here of what Purdue has within its athletic department. So it's interesting. I think that's why a lot of people are so high on Purdue basketball right now. It's been a program that has really bucked a lot of the trends nationally, and it has had great success doing so. So I'll go football. Long story short there, I'll say football, and if I had to pick a national champion going into the season in basketball, I would pick Purdue. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but I don't know that there is a more complete team in the country than Purdue entering the season. It doesn't guarantee you anything, but it's a nice place to start. All right, guys, next week we kick off the season. I want to do a big Q&A talking about Purdue football here. Send me over your questions. Do so on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Email me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. We have plenty to talk about. I'm going to make some final thoughts on position groups, on the team, things I'm curious to see. We're going to preview Ball State. I've got a contact over there that's been getting me some insight from Ball State fall camp. So we'll talk about the Cardinals, talk about what Purdue needs to do to remain undefeated against the Harvard of Muncie. We're going to talk a lot, but send me over questions. Let's make next week a really fun show. Until then, guys, thanks for spending your time with me today. Follow the show on Twitter. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Can't wait, guys. It is the best time of the year. College football is here. Enjoy the Week 0 games on Saturday, and it all gets going next week. Take care, everyone.